Welcome to Chapter 2. Right now we're actually going to take a look at how we debug a Qt program. It's part of the end of section of Chapter 2. We have written the Hello from Qt application, and what it does is, actually, if you can see it on my screen here, this is the final UI. It just has this pop part here where it says Hello from Qt. So what we've just done is we've just added a line edit field here, a label here, and a push button. So you can go in, type text in the line edit, your name, click enter, and it's supposed to come back and say hello to you. So it's very specific. So let's give it a chance to run and see what we find out. So I'm going down here, click the run button. In a second, there we go, we have a little window open up. It says hello from Qt. So I'm going to enter my name here, John, and I'm going to hit enter name, and what happens? Nice to meet you, exclamation point. Well, that's interesting. It's supposed to have actually said John there. Nice to meet you, John. So what happened? It's a good question. I'm not really sure, so let's go and start working with the debugger. So I'm going to close this window right now, and we'll go back here. We'll go and we will look at our main window code. So when we press the button, this method is called on push button clicked. And we look at it and we see, well, we fetch the selected text from the line edit, we assign it to name, and then we set our text label to say nice to meet you. Remember, the %1 tells us what the first substitution argument is going to be, and our first substitution argument is name. So what's saying here is nice to meet you. It's going to substitute John and put an exclamation point in there. But it didn't. The code looks very straightforward, but it's not working. So let's set a breakpoint here. And before we do that, I'm going to move over to the debug screen. The debug screen lets us see everything that's happening in debug. And I'm going to rearrange things just a little bit to give myself a little bit more working room. All right. Now I'm going to set a breakpoint. To do that, I'm going to come over here where it says, you see we have line 18 here. Notice my cursor's changed to a little, I guess it's a pointing finger. I'm going to click there. I have this red dot. That sets a breakpoint. Down here we can see the breakpoint, and we can see, if I open this up, it's in mainwindow.cp on line 18. And let me see if I can reset. Oops, sorry. Actually, that's good because it allows me to show you how to bring up the debug window if you want to yourself. You can come down here and click that. Oh, that's the debug console. Where is my debug window? That's probably easiest just to flip back to the debug over here. Now I can actually change my views a little bit. I really only care about my breakpoint, and yeah, actually that will work. We reset everything to default, and I'm going to lift this back up. So here's my breakpoint set right here. Now, we talked about the icons before. This is the run one, and if you look at your text, you'll find this is the debug icon. This will actually start with the debug run. So let's run that. And when we run that, we'll go through the same thing we did before, and we will eventually come down, and we will get here. We'll press the push button. We'll click it, actually, to be technically correct. And we will stop here. So let's make that happen. All right. Just need to find my window. Ah, there it goes. Sometimes debugging takes a few seconds to start up simply because it reads all of the Qt libraries in. So the debugger actually goes through and loads up all the debugging information for the Qt libraries. It does it ahead of time, so it's a little bit faster for you to deal with. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to type my name in again. And I'm going to click enter. Let's see what happens. Ah, something happened over here. A couple of things happened over here. First, on top of our yellow dot, or our red dot, is a yellow arrow. That says where we are. And actually, if you look here, it says that we have a breakpoint. It's enabled. It sees what file is in it. And you can see down here, it says the arrow is the current debugger location. So, we're going to go over here. Over here are all your local variables. So let's see what happens. I'm going to do a single step. Now this is a single step button. Not sure, it may be clearer to read it in the text. I'm going to step once. And notice the value up here changed. If you notice here, this is now red. And this is now black. Whenever a change is made to your local window, the text changes color if it's changed. So this did not change, but the value of name changed. And for some reason, name is showing as an empty string. Now the question is, why is that happening? Well, luckily we have this incredible help system in Qt. So it's got to be here. So something's happening here. UI, line edit, selected text. You see that little flash there? It said press F1 for help. So I'm going to put my cursor right there, and I'm going to do exactly what it said. I'm going to say press F1. And the help system loads up. Okay, so now we can see selected text returns a const Q string. Okay, that works. This property holds the selected text. All right. If there's no selected text in this property, the value is an empty string. By default, this property contains an empty string. So what does that mean? Well, doing a little bit digging, I don't want to go through it all at this time. What it really means is the text that is currently selected. Actually, I will do that because it's kind of interesting. So I'm going to pop over here. I'm going to go back to my debug screen. I'm going to stop the debugger. And we're going to run it again. We'll wait for it to load everything up. And open our window. Still waiting. And there we go. Let's see what happens if I do this. So I've made my name a little bit longer. Maybe this author thing is going to is boosting my ego too much. But selected text. It sounds like if I select that, that's now the selected text, the author. But let's verify that. Okay, we hit our breakpoint. We'll step over. Still not what we want. Okay, so we don't know what selected text is. Let's go back to the help again. Let's take a look. It's a little aside here. I believe experimentation is part of learning. And it's going to be very hard for you to actually hurt anything at this point. Actually, for most of the stuff we do. So I encourage you to experiment once in a while and see what you learn. So selected text is described here, and below that function is another function called text. This property holds the line edits text. That sounds much more promising. We really want the whole text of the line edit element. So let's go back to our code. Go back to the debug window, and we're going to go and we're going to change from selected text to text. Helps if I spell better. There we go. So now we're retrieving the text element. We still haven't changed anything in our running of our code, but we're just going to rerun it. Now if I come down here, I need to stop this, and let's rerun it and see what happens. Save the work so it actually compiles something different. waiting again. There's our window. Let me bring it up front here. Type my name in, the short version again. Click Enter Name. We triggered our breakpoint. Now we'll come down here. Single step over this to the next instruction. Hey, look what's up here in red. My name is now in red. We can actually see what happened. All right, and let's continue it running. If we look at it now, it says, "Nice to meet you, John." It worked. So we've just debugged our first Qt application. Not only did we write one in this chapter, we learned how to do some simple debugging. We also learned how to go into the help system, look things up, and I talked a little bit about my philosophy. Experimentation is the best way to learn. So with that, I'm going to finish this video, and I hope you're enjoying the book, and I look forward to talking to you in Chapter 3.